This one's a little bit interesting. So let's finish off here with Lukas Van Ness from Iowa, 6'5", 272, 34-inch arms, passes all the tests size-wise. 4.58 in the 40, very good. 33.9% win rate in college football. But it's weird to me how he got there. So I'm watching his film, and I'm looking at his wins, and they're all from like the interior of the line. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're a guy, like it's sort of like wide receiver, which you talked about last week. If I need to put you in the slot for you to win in the NFL in college, what does that say about your NFL prospects? If you're an edge, and I got in the Big Ten, right, when we're not talking about the best athletes at tackle, if I got to put you inside for you to win in the Big Ten, I'm a little worried, right? That's kind of where I get the Solomon Thomas comp, where it's like, not necessarily big enough to play defensive tackle every down, not necessarily good enough maybe as a pass rusher to play edge every down. Is that, obviously we look at the grinding the mocks, he's projected to go right at pick 14 or so. That's a middle of the first round pick for a guy who might be a little limited.
Wow. Yeah. A lot said there, of course. I mean, I brought up a little earlier to you after I watched, the combine workout on him, was concerned. I think he's a good football player. Again, remember, I'm very particular about my verbiage and how I didn't say very good, or I didn't say bad. I think he's good in a lot of areas. I think he's good. Now, good doesn't always cut it. Good doesn't always justify, drafting at number 8 or 9, like where they're projecting the Falcons to take him. If they take him, there's going to be a reason for him, right? Probably because hardworking, all-American guy, works his butt off in a lot of ways. There's a lot of really positive elements. It comes from a school and a program and a coach that I mentioned in one of our last pods. I mean, I'm a huge, huge fan of what they do at Iowa. I think they do some really good stuff. Sometimes it's not always with, always the top level people. They've done a great job playing with those people. Kirk Ferentz is, I think, one of the best coaches, hands down, to be around this sport. So I think it's really good. They train him properly. There are elements to his movement when you watch him, the ability to gather his weight and to break down and to turn the corner precisely. Again, the agility, the ability to redirect when you need to redirect. It's not pretty. There's a rounding element to getting around the corner as well. Or when he's trying to, again, jam his foot in the ground and try to go around to run people down, he can run straight ahead, right? We've seen that before. There are guys, I mean, it's a 4.58. Like, that's a damn good 40 for a big old dude covering some ground. But if you watch him, he's not the guy that's turning him over that fast. He's got big strides and he's covering ground. There's an upside there in the sense of he'll continue to grow a little bit. I'm not saying a huge upside. I just think this guy's going to be a solid, consistent performer. When I brought up a guy like Kerrigan, where is Kerrigan on that? I don't know. It feels like Kerrigan's forever. How long has he been out? I mean, he came out how many years ago?
He's been retired for maybe a year or two, but he was in the league for a dozen years, right? I mean, like that's and when you said Falcons, I thought Patrick Kearney, right? Yeah. Like kind of that kind of player where, not just to make the racial, comp, but like, very similar, like long levered guy who's not necessarily the most athletic. Well, not necessarily playing the most athletic. And like when you talked about like kind of the lack of bend, I want to say too, like, so George Karlaftis had a similar thing. Another Big Ten defensive end last year that the Chiefs drafted late in the first, had 5 or 6 sacks. Obviously won a Super Bowl, but it had to be a complimentary end, right? Had to be the Tamba Hali to Justin Houston type player. Right. That's always what I worry about when you take an edge like this in the top half of the first round, is like, is he a Derek Thomas or is he a Tamba Hali? Because I don't know if you can teach a defensive end to bend after a certain point. Like, I think that there are some innate things that defensive ends can do that separate them from the truly like Von Miller, Derek Thomas, Bosa's, that kind of thing, versus, the guys who are very good, Tamba Hali, who gets multiple sacks, but you never want him to be the top defensive end on your team.
So, and I know personally, I have to be careful about this. When I start talking about fluidity of movement and smoothness to bend around the corner, to get low and do what they need to do, and it looks really pretty doing it, that's one thing. There are guys out there in the past who haven't really looked really good doing it, and they're productive and effective and efficient with it. To me, it's really, really important that you note that, and you're differentiating between, it's just not a pretty looking dude. This comes back probably to Kerrigan. Kerrigan played a long time in the league. He wasn't pretty turning the corner. He wasn't pretty when he had to stop, start, or clear the mess. I mean, there's a lot of elements here that are really important, and I personally believe you need to be very clear with your scouting staff and your coaching staff of what you're expecting. Don't bring this guy in and draft him at 8, 9, 10, and 11, and then say, okay, he's just kind of situational. Before you know it, you're a GM staring down the barrel of a defensive end who is limited, and he's playing 35% of the time. I won't have that. That was my biggest pet peeve, when you have coaches falling in love with someone, and you as a general manager have to look at the owner and say, he's getting what, 32% play time? No. When you're talking there, yeah.
The only way that can happen is if it's Aldon Smith, right? Where he comes in on a defense that's already made, because Aldon didn't start a game as a rookie. They had Paris Haraldson and I believe Ahmad Brooks, but then eventually he's like, you have to get the 15 sacks then. If you're not going to start as like Mark Anderson was that way, and I think who is the guy? The Bears great cover 2 defenses. The Alex Brown, the Florida guy with the chop when he made the sacks. You got those guys better get 10 sacks if they're going to be situational, and they better be starting in year 2.
That's right.
The guy's a top 12 pick.
This kid didn't start in 20. What did he not start in 20? Did he start in 21? I can't remember.
I don't think so. I think that this was year 1 of him getting significant stats. I'll make sure so we don't mislead our audience here. But yeah, it's a good point, and that is also something to worry about with some of these guys.
Yep, good football player. Just keep it in perspective of what he's going to do for the team, and again, I hope, because look, I will always have a soft spot for the Falcons, of course. As counterintuitive that might seem to most people who think that I would be cheering against them. It's important that they put together this next string of drafts are going to be really, really important to grow.
Matt Ungachek is right. No, Van Ness has never started. In fact, Van Ness, so last year he had a career high 478 snaps. In 2021, 462 snaps. He's played less than 1,000 snaps in college. Now, he was, again, like I said, 33.9% pressure rate. That's good, right? But we also, and just a little bit of analytics for people, when volume goes up, efficiency goes down, right? So you do have to grade guys that don't play a lot on a curve. Same thing with running backs, right? It's the Tony Pollard, Zeke thing where everybody's like, Tony Pollard's averaging 5 yards a carry. It's because he gets half the carries. We have to be worried. You have to be concerned about that. If you can keep it over a high volume, that means you're elite.
Ask Matt Yu there while he's on his laptop or whatever. Can he please look up the amount of reps that he had? Because I swear he had 17 reps. That's pretty midline in a situation. He's a good looking guy. Don't get me wrong, but I thought he was a 17 rep guy. It wasn't like he was popping off the 20 pluses, right? So where is he?
Yeah, I'm on the NFL.com, NFL.com here, as a guy who topped out at 12 reps. He had 17 reps. 17. A short shuttle of 4.32, not as fast as Eric Eager in college. Tough scene.